There's a lot of bad habits that these like internet lead companies have set up that turn them into like a McDonald's drive-through. They're so used to just like being the cashier. Somebody comes to you and you're only able to close them if they have their credit card and wallet out. Like I don't really think that makes you a solution
Yeah.
provider.
All right. Welcome to Connected Conversation on Insurance, brought to you by Canopy Connect. I'm your host, Ray Huang. I've got a great guest, Kelby Steele here. He is the founder of LeadForce 360. They do lead generation for insurance agencies, but you guys do a lot more than that. Kelby, why don't you chime in here and tell us a little bit more about what LeadForce 360 does?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Yeah, it's so good to be on this channel with you guys. We love our partnership with Canopy Connect and everything too. So it's been great. A little bit about LeadForce 360, kind of the nuts and bolts, recruiting and sales automation for the insurance industry, just plain and simple. We're big on finding ways to constantly automate the grind and help free up time. That's kind of our whole stitch too. When we got into this industry, we learned that so much of it is behind technologically. And there's just so much manual process that when we stepped in, we really wanted to find a way to improve those processes, streamline systems, and make it easier for people on the recruiting side, as well as on the sales side, and even on the service side to save time, eliminate the grind, eliminate the friction, and have just smoother processes. And ultimately, on the sales side, what we see even recruiting with getting in front of candidates side, getting in front of more prospects, is really avoid a lot of these marketing and internet lead companies out there. Agents just absolutely hate and they're frustrated with it that they share leads. And we wanted to be different in the way that we could make things not not shared among a couple of different agencies, 4 or 5 agencies. When you pay for things like, oh, we won't name drop them, but if you're running personal leads or you're doing commercial, it's shared among a ton of different agencies. And so we wanted to make it so that it's exclusive to the agencies themselves and to streamline the process. And that's clearly why we're working with Canopy Connect too, because part of that tech stack is to make it easier to collect documentation so that you can write more business faster and eliminate the grind, the friction.
I did a webinar a while back with Dion. He had this story about how like internet leads, like you'll never be, if you buy like the old traditional internet leads, like you'll never
Yeah.
be the first one to call them.
Yeah.
You're not going to be fast enough. Go into the call knowing, hey, you've already been called by 6 other agents. I know. And then go into your pitch. But yeah, obviously that brings the cost down, but your conversions are going to take a massive hit going through that. So you guys do kind of the lead generation, personal lines and commercial lines.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Leads.
launching life too here in a couple months.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So anything you need. And is it a live transfer? Obviously exclusive. Just tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple different options. Some people like live transfer, some people don't. So they have the option of doing both. And some people, it's sometimes they want to make the calls themselves, or they just like, hey, I just need the data leads. Can you just send me the data? Yeah, we could do that. Two, what's probably the most popular is that they'll have us generate the lead or make the phone call ourselves and do the qualification and verify that this person is actually who they say they are and that they actually requested a quote. And then we'll capture some additional information. One thing that we do that's a little bit different too is this kind of goes back to, my background is in sales and marketing. And so I found ways to always cross sell and across a ton of different platforms, such as if I'm doing a commercial policy, let's just say it's a commercial auto lead that comes in. Well, then I'm going to try to spin sell that into other things too. Ultimately, the more policies I can end up writing, the more I can also help with bundling and saving for that customer. But it also gives me more, honestly, it helps me to generate premium and I make a bigger commission doing that. Same on the personal line side. If you get a home lead in, you want to spin sell and get the autos, you want to try to get some other things, maybe umbrella. Oh, they got a boat too. Cool, throw that in there. I want to find out, okay, you guys have any kids? Oh yeah, I got a kid that's turning 16. He's going through his driver's test. Cool. You guys gonna plan to get him a new car for Christmas? Beautiful. So I'm like making a note about that too for future upsells that we want to do too later on. So it helps me to better understand who that customer is and kind of what their pain points are. Hey, what do you like about
Yeah.
your current provider, that kind of thing. But yeah, the live transfers is really big, and being able to synchronize with their existing systems is also powerful. So if they're using things like AgencyZoom or Pipedrive or HubSpot or DYL for their auto dialer or phone burn or any one of those systems, or Ricochet is one that I hear all the time. We want to synchronize those systems too, so it just streamlines the whole process.
So you touched a little bit on your background, like what led you in, like what is your background? How did you kind of
Yeah.
find your way into the insurance industry? Obviously, you came through the sales side of things, as you mentioned.
Yeah, Ray, I fell on my face, bro. Yeah, straight into the insurance industry. I was not looking for it. I don't know if any of us ever do go looking for it. We just like we wake up one day and I'm like, oh, I'm in insurance.
How did you end up here?
Yeah, how did you fall here? I closed my eyes and tripped on something and fell on my face, and I met a farmer's district manager and voice cracking in Texas. So I started. So my background has been software, right? So like I'm from Seattle. You do three things in Seattle. When you're growing up as a kid, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You're like, you're going to go into medicine, software, or airplanes. Because you got Boeing there, you got UW Medicine, and then you got all these different software companies. I naturally tripped and fell into software. I was just fascinated by tech and AI and digital marketing. So I started off with DocuSign and then went to some other companies, Avalara, and I love that stuff. I got tired of kind of working for somebody else, and I found ways that I always kind of sold into the insurance or financial services industry already. I just understood it with an economics background. And so that's
Sure.
where they just placed me. And so I got there. I became friends with a bunch of district managers at Farmers Insurance and a bunch of agents.
So I was saying, like, I fell straight on my face into the insurance industry because the district manager offered, he said, hey, I need some help with building some automation. I said, hey, I'll help you out. He was a friend of mine. And I said, hey, I'll do it for free for a month, and I'll see if I can just help you out. But it worked really well. Hey, can I pay you for this? And it was at that time that it blew up. Initially, I was trying to just sell my own, like LeadForce was supposed to be just for other software companies. And then it fell into insurance. We never really got any traction with that. We had a couple companies we worked with, and then insurance just took off. And from there, we just kept getting referrals for the recruiting automation. And then once we brought in enough salespeople, the conversation with the district managers changed into, we need leads for salespeople. So we talked about what makes an ideal customer for your agency. And that's where we built in applications and things. And it just grew and grew and grew. So we went from recruiting automation to sales automation. And then we kind of dabbled into the service side too. But yeah, that's what led us to eventually connect with Canopy Connect. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, there's always I always love hearing the origin stories of a company and how it evolved and how it pivoted. Obviously you were going in to maybe creating something a little bit more broad, and then you niche down into the insurance world.
yeah. I feel, and I'm so, there's a lot of people that, like, you do this. I come across this all the time with insurance agents, and they're like, they'll tell you their appetite, and it's this long list. We had a guy that we just onboarded this week, and he sent us his appetite, and it was truly like 200 different SIC codes, or like business class codes.
Yeah.
And I was like, how many of these have you actually sold to? He's like, maybe 10 out of the 200. I said, okay, so the 190 the others, do you feel confident like you could actually sell to them? He's like, I don't know, I'll probably figure it out. I was like, well, have you ever thought about just niching down, becoming an expert at maybe like 3 or 4 of these?
Yeah.
Like, no. I was like, look, you can sell this to anything. Like, you can sell insurance to an Eskimo, but if you start marketing yourself as like being a niche representative of, or like you work specifically with like artisan contractors. I said, do you know like how much more business you'll make? He's like, wouldn't I make less? I said, no, if you become an expert in one thing, like artisan contractors, or even 3 things, your referral source and your team will become just masters at dealing with RC contract. I said, you know how many contractors there are in the United States, or just even in California where you're located?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's probably thousands. I'm like, there's hundreds of thousands. Are you kidding me? We had an agent 3 years ago who started his agency, and then like COVID hit, right?
Yeah.
And then his company said, like, we're not going to write any more personal lines. We're only going to do commercial. And he was like, oh shit, what am I supposed to do? And so I don't know if he even knew how to spell workers' comp, to tell you the truth, but that's all he sold was workers' comp and arson contractors for like the next 3 years. And now the guy he'll tell you, I can talk to contractors. I already know what 5 questions they're going to ask me before I even get on the phone. And here he's like, I already know what direction I'm going to go with them, like whether or not they fit perfectly with my carrier or if I got to write them outside. I know exactly where I'm going to go with them. I can already tell them like how much money their thing's going to cost because I've worked with them so much over the last 3 years. That's all I've ever closed. That's all I've ever talked to. Now, of course, he's trying to expand that, but like he gets so many referrals because everybody just knows him as being the expert in the insurance world for contractors.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the evolution of a lot of folks in the world. Like you start off trying to be like, I want to be general because I want to cast a big net, right? And then they realize, oh, I got to niche down. There's, they say there's riches and niches. Once you like get a lock of that, then you kind of open up again, right? And then you start picking up, well, these people also care about these things. I can also move in this way and still hit the right demographic. And you're learning how to speak their language versus trying to speak everyone's language. I think that's what it comes down to a lot of the time, right? Do you know the lingo? Right?
Yeah.
If you think about, there's a lot of tech platforms. Like you can use any CRM for insurance, right?
Exactly.
So people lean towards an AgencyZoom or something because it's built for insurance. Could they do more if they were trying to compete with the Salesforce and HubSpots of the world? Theoretically, yes, but like you're not going to beat a HubSpot and a Salesforce because they're the generalist kind of leader in that space.
That's right. You bring up a really good point. One of the toughest things for any salesperson when they're trying to talk to a new prospect is simply building know, like, and trust. And if you are an expert in dealing with contractors, your website even has it. There's a big red banner that says you deal with #1 insurance agency for contractors, and all your documentation and all of the videos that you do are all bent towards contractors. There's advantages and disadvantages, of course, but man, any contractor that ever comes to your site or ever considers you as being the guy that they work with, you're going to win 9 out of 10 times easy because they're going to feel like you understand me. You understand my business. You understand my world. You're speaking the language. You're speaking the jargon. You understand kind of what the day-to-day looks like for me when it comes to the insurance side.
Changing gears here and thinking about leads that you guys are generating, right? The intent there is, hey, I want to be able to give them a quote and write that business. What are some of the common mistakes maybe you see in when you guys hand off a lead?
I think there's a lot of bad habits that these like internet lead companies have set up for agents that turn them into like a McDonald's drive-through. They're so used to just like being the cashier that's like, I'm not expected. Oh no, I'm in sales because I'm doing transactions. They're like, well, you're not really in sales because you're not a solution provider. You're not like somebody comes to you and you're only able to close them if they have their credit card and wallet out. Like, I don't really think that makes you a solution provider person. You're an order taker at the end of the day. Like, would you like fries with that? And it's like, there's nothing different between you and that. Where a lot of agencies crash and burn is because they don't have systems and processes. They couldn't tell you what their law of averages is. You ask them outright. Like, we don't hire a salesperson unless they can tell us what their law of averages was at their last company. And a lot of them are like, what do you mean? I'm like, tell me how many phone calls it took for you to close a deal. Or how many times did you have to be told no before you got a yes? Or how many emails or how many text messages or how many opportunities did you have to generate to get to one closed deal? Do you even know what your close ratio is?
Right.
Most of them don't know. Like, I think I would say that 4% of salespeople could probably answer that question. And
Yep.
those are the ones you want to hire. The guys that actually know their numbers, right?
Right.
But I hear that all the time. And so when you get customers on the phone, like especially with like you get it with personal lines too, but a lot of times with commercial, we'll have a business owner that, we sent over. The guy expressed interest. We recorded the call. He expressed interest. He talked about, I want to quote my commercial auto, my workers' comp, and my GL. And then he'll finally get in front of the agent who's expected to sell. And good agents will actually go through and they'll build rapport and they'll build a dialogue and they'll develop more pain and maybe add that from 3 policies into 6 policies. Right, that they're going to write for this guy. Other ones will just try to be like, there's just no sales. There's no sales finesse with it. It's like they don't know how to talk to people when they get in front of them. They don't really know their sell. Business owners will ask this question. They'll be like, hey, Ray, you're with Farmers Insurance. I'm currently with Allstate. What makes you different than where I'm at? Are you the same? Aren't Farmers Insurance and Allstate the same? Like, what makes you different? How am I going to be any better? How am I going to pay less or any of these things? Or isn't the coverage the same? And most agents, right, 9 out of 10 of them are going to be like deer in the headlights and be like, I don't know. Or maybe spin off something.
Yeah.
We hear all the time is the personalized service. And they go on this rant of like just bullshit. They're like trying to come up with something. Okay, let me just talk forever and maybe I'll come up with some good nuggets. Yeah. Instead of like clearly being like, hey, John, great question. The things that are going to make us different. This is good to like when you're niching down too. But, what I always tell them is like, hey, the thing that makes us different is that 3 things. Number 1, better customer service, better coverage, and better pricing, better pricing options. Hey, we're not the cheapest, but we're a premium solution. And when it comes to a premium solution, we're pretty well competitive with what you're going to get. Better customer service, and then have like examples to back those up. Better customer service, what I mean by that is you're not calling a 1-800 number. You can text us, you can email us, you can throw us a bug signal. We're still going to see it. We're going to get back to you fast. So you call somebody right now when you need something done. You don't have to sit on hold for 2 hours trying to get, you just got in a car accident. You're trying to get help. Long claims processes, get paid out right away. Number 2 would be better coverage when shit happens. Like all these California fires going on right now. What I love about some of the insurance carriers we get to work with, like they're just handing out checks instead of it being like a 6-month process before they actually see any money. You're just supposed to figure out life. Your home just burnt down. Like some of these carriers are able to come in with money in hand and be like, here you go. So like being able to tell those stories, like this is why you become, a customer of our agency.
Yeah. There's a salesmanship element to it. Hugely important. Coming back to LeadForce 360, I know we talked about how you guys provide, one-to-one leads. How does one of your customers, if they want a lead in a certain, SIC code or segment, like how do they interface with you guys? Do you guys have a platform that they use, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's all just in like an app through their phone. They can choose right there the app they want. They can do it on the desktop too, but they can choose what business class code or what type of customer they want to engage with, and then even filter by X dates or renewal dates, and adjust it for like a number of employees, a minimum and a maximum. Same thing around vehicles, minimum, maximum, and then what state or county, even the counties within the state, if they want to break it down even further, and then just press go. And the system just begins running. They can generate a lead like that, or say he's, within an hour, like they're started getting leads like right away. I think the fastest I've ever seen was like 6 minutes, where they got a lead. They put their filters in there, and 6 minutes later, they got a lead.
Yeah. So
what's
happening on the back end? If I'm the customer and I say, I want to reach plumbers in Phoenix, Arizona, with more than 1 employee, what happens on your end? Like what's happening behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's awesome. So what happens is they say, I want plumbers, Phoenix, Arizona, minimum 1 employee. What's happening is our system, they go and they hit create search. In a tenth of a second, that search begins to go out to the numerous databases that we're connected to. Now, the alternative is like people got to go out and they got to sign up for different databases. They got to export the data. They got to upload it into their phone systems. And then they themselves have to make the phone calls. With us, put your filters in. It's like a video game. You put your filters in and hit create search. It pulls from the databases. That immediately pushes to the call team. It triggers the call team who are already making calls just to put you next in line. Then boom, your lead drops in there. And it's cool because you can see a dashboard where you can see, okay, I got 5 guys calling for me right now. They're calling this business, this business, this business, this business, and this business. And those businesses are located in Challenger, Phoenix, Scottsdale. And then, this is the duration of time that they've been on the phone. The first caller has been on the phone with this guy for about a minute. The other one's been on the phone for about 5 minutes. The other one's been on the phone with about 10 minutes. So you can kind of see, usually like once it gets over a minute, because they're just cold calling in and they're having conversations. So if they've been on the phone with somebody for 5-10 minutes, it's probably going to turn into a good opportunity. So during that process, they're actually doing the qualification. They're finding out who's the decision maker, phone number, email, how many W-2 employees they have, how many vehicles, do they own or lease their property, the commercial property, do they have a key man policy, like all these things. And then the calls are recorded through ChatGPT. So it spits out a summary that provides context and transparency to the agent. So when that agent calls, whether it's a live transfer or it's a scheduled appointment, then they've got context going into that conversation.
Nice. And then one of the hot topics now is the TCPA rules about opting in and whether you can call or text folks. And I think that's becoming a sticking point for vendors like yours.
Yeah.
How does that go as far as compliance with that? How do I, if I'm the agent, know that it is safe for me to call or text or email them?
It's a great question. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I know the traditional internet lead companies are really struggling with this because they're used to sharing the leads and you can't really do that anymore. So then they're going to increase their prices, and that's what we're seeing. With us, because we've always been exclusive with the agencies that we're working with, we don't share leads. Is that it's one more checkbox actually for us that you have to put it in there that says like, I'm going, you put in your information, the customer fills out their information for a home quote, and they have to check a box, and 2 boxes actually, in fact, where they say, I'm giving permission for, John Smith Insurance to email me, text me, and call me.
Okay.
So that way they know that they're compliant with that new piece of legislation, and they're safe, and they're not at risk of being sued.
So are you guys, because you're doing cold calling into it, so how are they giving that permission?
Yeah, with the recording too, when we call in, they're also having to agree to verify, hey, I'm okay. I'm agreeing to be contacted by John Smith. When we call, we actually say, I'm calling for John Smith Insurance.
Okay. So they're calling first party as if they were first party.
They're calling as if they're first party, and they're saying, hey, is it okay that we email you, text you, call you, and generate a quote for you? And then they're saying, yes, it's okay that you guys do that. And the fact that they're providing like phone number and email and everything too kind of goes along with that too. The part of the buying signs that we can't even send a lead over. Our call team can't even send a lead over until we've gathered like permission to be contacted, their phone number, email, and then we have to collect details about their business, such as how many W-2 employees they have, or annual payroll, or vehicles, and those kind of things.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so then you're sending all that information. How does that data that they're collecting in the calls, like how does that get to the agent?
It gets emailed to them. And also if they have like an AgencyZoom or a CRM, that data can get pushed straight into that system. So we'll help with building the integration.
Okay.
Where that happens. Some people run it through like a DYL or another phone system, or phone burner or something. So we'll drop it in there too.
Got it.
Yeah. You can even get texted to them too if they want.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you guys are meeting the agents where everyone's got a different process and a different system, and
Yeah.
hey, however we can get it there, right? Like I say, for
Try to
Canopy
meet 'em.
Connect, we kind of play in the same world where I don't care what your other systems are, as long as we're working to make sure we can send the right data to the right places wherever you
Yeah.
are, however you want to interact with it.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah, for sure. And so they're getting the data all in text, or is it pushing into like fields in, say, an AgencyZoom?
Yeah, it can push into fields inside of an AgencyZoom. We actually will help set up the mapping with them. Like, where do you want the data to go? And do you want it to immediately create an opportunity for you in AgencyZoom? Boom, done. Two, some people, like a lot of people that are using Canopy Connect, and so it'll trigger an automation that as soon as our caller gets off the phone, boom, it's an email that goes out saying, hey, Ray, this is Kelby. You just got the phone with Max on my team about your workers' comp and commercial auto policies. I'm already working on putting together a quote. Something that would help streamline this for me and for you would be if you can click on this link right here. This is a link that will help give me permission to view your current policies. And then I'll email you over a quote here within 24 hours.
Got it.
Streamlines them collecting all the loss runs and all the documentation that they need in order to generate that quote.
Yeah. I know you and I were talking before. You guys offer some different resources, right, to help train people on some of these sales techniques and best practices. Tell us maybe a little bit more about that and where they can find out about those resources.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 2 Facebook groups where they can get a bunch of free content. We've got guys on there that are sales coaches that volunteer their time, their resources and everything, where they can watch thousands of hours of videos for how to sell renewals or key man policies or commercial or personal lines or life or Medicare. They can view all that, and it's all free to them. Every other week, we do another free sales coaching training session where we even invite special guests to come in and talk about things that are helping them to sell more. We'll invite agents that have been those experts in their field, like that guy who was telling you about that 3 years ago. He didn't even know how to spell workers' comp, and then he came in and he's just crushing it. He went to President's Council just this last year too for what he's been on. So it's pretty incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We'll put resources or links to that in the show notes or description below. Make sure that gets out there because I think it's a great resource for folks. Where can people learn more about LeadForce 360?
Yeah, LeadForce360.com. Easy to find. If you're interested in commercial, you can actually get a free lead. Create a free account, get a free lead 2-day. You don't even have to put your credit card down or anything. It'll generate a free lead for you. So you can put in all the filters. You can actually see how it works and see if it's actually going to be a good fit for you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Show, not tell, right?
That's right. We're confident in kind of what we're doing.
Awesome. Yeah. Kelby, I want to thank you for your time joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Any last parting words? Words of wisdom?
Yeah, I guess ABC. I just watched that old movie, Glenn
Ross. Yeah.
Same as, but hey, great movie. If you guys haven't seen it, or just watch the YouTube video, the 6-minute.
Yes.
Always be closing. Yeah, always be closing.
It's a classic movie about toxic salesmanship, but there's nuggets in there.
There's nuggets in there. I think ABC, and find ways that you can automate the grind and free up in your agency. Yeah. Work smarter rather than harder,
Exactly. Yeah. All about efficiency. Well, hey, thank you so much, Kelby, and LeadForce360.com. Go check them out. Get your free lead when you try out the product, and I think you guys will be happy with it.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Ray. Thanks so much for having me.